Confirm that we've got the power feed to the ignition coil, but that of course doesn't mean we're getting signal to it or that we have the ground and all that, so we need to test that. Whenever I'm in these situations here where I will admit it's looking pretty bad for this ignition coil, I always think to myself, what would Scotty do? And then I do the exact opposite. So I am going to get a lot more data to conclusively rule this thing out rather than just replace the ignition coil in 3 minutes. And actually most every hack would have replaced an ignition coil by now anyway, I'm sure. But we need to see, and the problem is that I really don't have time to pull up a wiring diagram. So let's just see if we can figure out what our controls are here. And we've got another pink wire here. We've got a couple of white looking wires. One's white with black stripe, another one's black. So I guess we got a pink is going to, of course, be the power, and then the black, I'm sure, is going to be the ground. One of these is going to be a signal input, and I don't know which one, but it's got to be one of these white ones, right? That's just common sense. So let's see if we can figure that out. And I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to put this charger back on. So we'll have to deal with that whine for a little bit, I guess, but our battery is really, really weak as it is. So let's try this method here. All right, let's get our DVOM in a shadow there, so hopefully there's not a lot of glare. And we've already determined this pink wire is definitely the positive, we know. And this black wire's got to be ground, right? So let's just try that real quick, and it is. So there's our 12 volts. Now, that means that one of these white wires has to be a signal input. I'm not quite sure what the reason is for the two white wires. One of them has to be a signal. The other one may possibly be for the tachometer, I guess. I really don't know. But we want to find out which of these is the input signal. So we'll just have to do that by trial and error. And actually, an easier way to do this is going to be with a test light, actually. Let's do that because it'll be a little bit easier, and this DVOM is kind of hard to see with the glare. All right, my apologies for the video quality for the rest of this video, but I am really pressed on time, and I just want to get this diagnosis done. So normally I'd explain thoroughly what I'm doing and have this video on my other channel, actually, but what I'm going to do is I'm just taking a guess here that the white wire makes the most sense to me, that that's probably going to be the ignition signal input. And I've got my spark tester back in place here, and I'm just going to use a test light here to go ahead and put in my own input signal to this coil. I just want to rule out if this coil's bad. That's all I care about right now. I really need to get this done, so let's just see. And check it out. I don't know if that's showing up in camera. Hopefully it is. Yeah, that's showing up. So right there, would you replace the coil in this car based on that information right there? Well, 98% of people certainly would, because they wouldn't have even gone this far. This car does not need a coil. I am willing to bet that this is going to be some kind of cam or crank sensor problem, because that's basically what I'm doing, is I believe the crank sensor, I'm not too familiar with which responsibility is for spark, if it's the cam or the crank. I do think it's the crank. But the problem is we didn't find any codes, and I really would have expected that. But this proves we're going to eliminate the coil as a possibility. We're done with that. So I think the next thing to do is I'm going to set up some tests to find out if we've got a problem with cam or crank sensor.